All right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Dope Muslim Woman Podcast family. Assalamu alaikum to my family here on the live. How you guys doing?
Good.
Everybody doing okay?
Walaikum salam. Good.
Good to see all of you. It's been a Wednesday, but we are all here. We're happy to be here. For those of us that are joining, please drop your salams. Assalamu alaikum, Sakina and Sharia. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman Podcast. We are here now for season 4. Our season 4 is titled From Heartbreak to Dope, taking you on a journey of heartbreak, denial, brokenness, all the way to the stages of enlightenment and elevation into this, what we call and define dope, determined to overcome pain and elevate. So welcome back to episode 2. Walaikum salam, everybody. It's good to see you guys. What I want you guys to do if you are logged on is to do the Dope Muslim Woman Podcast a solid by liking it and sharing it. Liking it and sharing it. That's the best way you can contribute very fast off the bat is share this live. So welcome back. We're in the Heartbreak and Denial podcast series, and we have one for you. This is called My Child, My Pawn. And this one I've been seething over. And I think a lot of people, this is pretty a polarizing topic. So we're happy. We have the best people here to bring it to light. So subhanAllah. I wanted to go ahead and introduce our guests here for you here today. Walaikum salam, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. You ready for this? We're going to duke it out. So alhamdulillah. All right, let's get right into it. I'm going to start with introducing my dear brother that's here on the live. He is a deputy sheriff officer here in the city of Philadelphia. He's been with the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office for 10 years. He's the owner of Ahmed Media and the Mumin Islam Today radio show, which I was on not too long ago, for the Jihad Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman Podcast.
Walaikum salam, and thank you so very much for having me this evening.
Alhamdulillah. It's good to see you, brother. MashaAllah. And I wanted to go ahead and introduce my sister. She's been here. She's graced the stage here before. Alhamdulillah. This sister, she's a poet, rapper, songwriter. We all know her here in Atlanta and I would say nationwide and probably worldwide for which she has contributed to the Muslim community as far as her artistry. She is a mother of 5, a wife, and she has, mashallah, she's now in the transition where she is passing the baton of her dope artistry to her amazing children. They are called the Ali Clique, and if you haven't seen them, they're super confident, dope, and they light fire on stages. It's amazing to watch. Welcome to the show, Mrs. Latifa Ali. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, mashallah. Now, this amazing sister here, she is an investor. She's an entrepreneur. She's a mother of 1, and she's based out of the Atlanta metro area. She's my friend. Welcome, Sister Hamidah, to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Happy to be here. Finally being on your show.
Happy to have you here, mashallah. This sister here, she needs no introduction because if you've been here on the Dope Muslim Woman Podcast, she has been here before and she coached us all live here. We were all coached and reformed the last time she was here on the show. She is none other than the divorced Muslima coach. She transforms the lives of Muslim women who have experienced the trauma of divorce, especially navigating the taboos that we face in our Muslim community. She helps them migrate from heartbreak to elevation. She is, in fact, doing the work. And she has also done incredible work as it relates to parental alienation. She will continuously coach us here today. So we hope that we can have her solutions, inshallah. Welcome back, Coach Rayesa, to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My pleasure, my honor to be here with all of you.
Thank you so much. And we also, I don't want to be remiss, but we have our brother. He's going to be joining us in just a second. He's just in transition. But this brother, he's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner, community involved, heavily community involved. He runs he helps the basketball team at Muhammad Schools in Atlanta. He is a proud father of 5, and he also happens to be the dope husband of Mrs. Latifa Ali, none other than brother Amir Ali. And I think he's joining us just now. Well, I'm about to give him greetings, but he's not even here. But Assalamu alaikum, brother Ali.
Wa alaikum salam. Now I know how to hold on.
We're gonna work it out with brother Amir because he is transitioning. So it's no problem. We know he's gonna keep it real light and funny for us. So alhamdulillah. We also will have our legal commentator, which I will introduce inshallah shortly in the show. He will be joining us midway through, brother attorney Esquire Mumin Ali. But welcome you guys to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. Are you guys ready to get going? Y'all ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's go. So, all right, you guys, make sure you're interacting so that we can kind of get all you guys' perspectives. What I ask for my guests, because we have so many here on the live, is that you mute yourself until I call on you, inshallah, so that everybody can actually have the best audio quality as possible. Jazakallah khairan. I'm just going to go ahead and start off. I'm going to, really direct this question first and foremost to brother Jihad. You're up first, but we know that divorces are painful. We talked about this on your show, brother Jihad. It can involve high conflict. It can involve custody battles, issues with visitation, and a lot of times they turn out to be moral victories. We think that it's about winning a lot of times, and it can often bring out the worst in people that are already wounded and navigating their pain of brokenness post-divorce or breakup. I wanted to ask you straight off the bat, how do two parents get to a place, first and foremost, in your opinion, where they're using their children as pawns post-divorce?
I couldn't hear you. I think something went wrong with my audio part. Can you just repeat the last part of the question, please?
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, how do two parents get to a place where they are using their children as pawns post-divorce? How does that come about?
I think that happens because you'll have either the brother or the sister, they're hurting from whatever the situation that happened in the marriage, and it causes both of them to be angry with one another, and opposed to being willing to work things out. As the title of it this evening, my child, my pawn. They use the children to be a pawn in the situation. Brothers catch. I've always felt as though in a divorce that someone catches the short end of the stick, and most of the time it tends to be the brother. The brother gets the not the worst end of the stick, but he gets not the good part. You have a situation where the ex-wife moves away and you're unable to see your children on a regular basis. They move away to another state. And that can be used as a pawn at times too.
SubhanAllah, absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to just thank you for that. And I see you already are starting, Brother Jihad, because you said the brothers get the short end of the stick. I wanted to bounce this over to Sister Hamidah. How do you feel about that comment? Do you believe that in cases of divorce, brothers are getting the short end of the stick? And how do we get to a place when we are using our children as pawns?
A lot of times I'm going to have to kind of agree with that because in most states, the mother gets custody of the child, and so they kind of have the leverage, if you will. So depending on how everything goes about, sometimes it's taken out on the father. Sometimes, not always. But what was the other part of the question? It was like, how do people get to the point where they're using their kids?
Yeah, how does that happen? How do you get to the point where you're using your child as a pawn to get back at your ex-spouse because you're hurt?
Yeah, I honestly think it's unhealed wounds from whatever happened in the relationship, and someone is utilizing the only leverage that they do have, which is the only connection that they have at that point, which is the child. So knowing if you have another caring parent on the other side, the best way to kind of get at them is what they're attached to. So that could be either mother or father, honestly and truly, because, you know, I've seen cases where it's both. So any scenario that we actually are talking about can be flipped around to where whoever is the broken, bitter party will kind of use that relationship to either like make it difficult for the other parent, or you know, just pretty much that, make it difficult for the other parent because they don't want to see them happy because they're not happy with inside themselves.
Yeah. And I wanted to just say to my beloved guests, I do want to say those that are using AirPods, the audio is kind of going in and out. So just be conscious of that if you're using AirPods. That tends to happen. I wanted to bounce over to Coach Rayesa, right? Sister Rayesa, I'm just going to go right into it. What happens here? What happens where parents are getting to the point post-divorce, loving parents, caring parents, get to the point where now they're using their children as pawns?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few factors here. You can love your children but still hurt them, and it's a lack of awareness. It's a lack of consciousness. It's both parties are going through loss and grief, and different people process it differently. What one thing is, if you're in the habit or you used to always pointing the finger, that your issues or your problems are always someone else's fault, then it's going to be very easy to justify whatever you dish out because you're the victim and the other person is at fault. And so unprocessed grief will basically, the repercussions of the emotions, anger, frustration, bitterness, resentment, all of those things that are unprocessed in a healthy way will get spilled out onto the children. And they will also, it becomes justifiable to, they don't even see it. Sometimes they don't even see what they're doing, that they're hurting their children, and they just feel justified, that they can't see the bigger picture. They're so submerged in their pain and their trauma and their hurt. And, you know, we can all justify when we're in a place of where we feel something's unfair, we feel something's unjust, when we feel that we've been wronged, we can all justify behavior in the moment and not see it as anything wrong. And another thing that happens is that many times when people have this lack of awareness of what they're doing, most of the time they're repeating coping mechanisms, and they're repeating generational patterns.
Absolutely.
And so they don't even see it as anything wrong. In my own experience, in my family, that's exactly what's happening. As a repeating of generational patterns of parental alienation. And ironically, I'm experiencing it in a divorce, but however, the generation before that experienced it within the marriage. And it's still playing out in that family dynamic. I think also that depending on the level of lack of consciousness, people can also, who are alienating one parent from their child, it's a form of child abuse, actually, because it's a child's right to have a healthy relationship with both parents. The person can also flip it to then blame that parent who has been alienated, that because of X, Y, and Z, because if you did this and you didn't do this, basically what you didn't do, what I expected you to do, which is also a manipulation around control, and they can go around and turn around and point it at the other parent, and also turn the reality of the child into that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach. That was powerful. I didn't want to go too far there because I really want us to break it down bit by bit. And I want to start first and foremost. I know we have our lovely couple, the married couple here. And mashallah, assalamu alaikum officially. Assalamu alaikum. Hey guys. I think you guys are on mute.
We were. Wa alaikum salam.
Welcome, you guys. I'm gonna bounce this right on over to you, Brother Amir, if that's okay. I wanted to ask, what do men typically experience, when they are being punished or controlled as a result of not being with their child, no longer be in a relationship with their child's mother? What is that experience like for men?
Well, I can only talk about that from my friend's experience, because I actually didn't go through that when I.
Can we move you in the camera a little bit? There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, you did. Stop moving around.
All right. So, I mean, I personally, I go through any of the withdrawals and not been able to be with my child during the time of my separation. So, but I do know a lot of men go through a lot of different emotions, a lot of different things that they go through. Like, I got a good close friend who is, what is it, about 10, maybe 11 years. Like, he be going through it right now with his ex for like 11 years strong, where he doesn't have that relationship, that support with his child, because the mother is still bitter and still angry and using that child as a pawn. And it's I know that it can be it is very rough on him sometimes. Sometimes he just really can't, like, it's really tough. It's really rough on him a lot of the times, not being able to see his son, because at the end of the day, like, the child is here and has nothing to do with the drama between the adult parents. They need to be figuring it out. Let's do what's best for the child.
Yeah. And Sister Jamila says some men carry it in silence. Brother Jihad, is that true? A lot of this pain that men carry, it's in silence. They don't speak about it.
Very, very much so. Alhamdulillah, I need to say that my experience has been a whole lot different. I didn't have the pawn situation in my marriages, but I know brothers that are dealing with and have dealt with the pain of not being able to see their children, because a lot of women not a lot of women, I'm sorry, I take that back. Women that are hurt for whatever reason in the marriage tend to carry that over into that divorce. And, like someone said on the post, men hurt in silence, and we won't say anything that we're hurting about the fact that our children are away from us, or we can't see them. That is very much true.
And Sister Amina wanted to remind us, I'm going to pop over to you, Coach Rayesa. Please know that women aren't the only ones who use children as pawns. Coach Rayesa, can we speak to that a little bit, and also to the father's experience? Coach Rayesa, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, for sure, we can't label and generalize and say women are like this, men are like this. This could be done on both sides. And the example I was giving about my own experience, one generation before, it was a woman doing this to her husband, and now it's like the father doing it to the mother. So it's learned behavior, and it can happen with men and women. It's a way that they are coping with their emotions. And so, speaking to the male experience, I think so far what we've been hearing has been spot on. I've supported a couple of different men as well. It's very frustrating. They feel like they're trying to do their best, and it's just unfair. It's really unfair. So what do you do when you're in a situation that's unfair, or you're being treated unfairly by the parent of your child, the mother of your child, and even the court system, right? So what do you do in that situation? And we always have a choice. We could either lash out in the only way we know how, or we can get support and we can get help and how to process and how to work through it, and what is the best way I can still honor and love my child, whether I get to see my child or not, whether I get to be with my child or not. And these are hard things. These are big tests. These are not, I say them like this because I've experienced them myself, but they're the biggest tests of your life. The rejection or separation from a parent or a child or a partner, especially a parent and a child, are going to be one of the hardest, painful things that you're going to experience for men and for women. And I feel like a lot of times the men don't have the spaces or the support to acknowledge and validate their experience and their feelings. And I think we need to do more of that, and allow space for men to have that vulnerability and sharing their experience, because they're human beings just like women are, and they feel and they have pain as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Latifa, I wanted to pop on over to you just as a woman, understanding, what do you think our role is as women, especially if we are marrying and entering into unions with brothers that may be navigating this pain, that may be dealing with challenges as it relates to their children? What do you think our role is as women, and how can we best support brothers that are navigating this?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my answer. We have to support them. And that means whatever that support looks like for them, because everybody's situation is different. I think one of the major things, at least, for me, coming into a marriage, and he already had a child, there were two things. One is, I actually wanted to marry somebody with a child, and I probably didn't think about baby mama drama when I said that. That wasn't on my mind. I wanted someone who had a child because I wanted kids right away, and I wanted to see what kind of father they were. So that was my thought process. If they're not good to this child, then they're not the one. So I need somebody who I did a quick fix, obviously, because we got married so quick. But it was one of the things that went through my mind was that, and in my head, it was always whoever the child's mother is, we have to be friends. We're going to have to be friends no matter what. And because I had that in my head, it never went, even with whatever happened, it never left my head that at some point we're going to be friends. And I think I moved it. That's how I navigated our relationship. That was in my head.
Well, girl, I have to say that's Hamidah, I'm gonna pop on over. That's a very noble perspective to have, but it's not always that way. It's difficult for women who are entering into these unions and then having to deal with their own emotions in a relationship with the man. I mean, what do you think, Hamidah, in regards to this?
I just learned that was how it was.
He's on mute.
I mean, after all these years, I just
Can you hear
learned
me
that.
better without the earpods? I didn't know if it was
Yep.
coming in and out.
Yeah.
You can? Okay, I would say that is something you have to keep in the forefront. I mean, I didn't know myself, but I learned that is a very important thing. Like, what are they dealing with? What is the status of their relationships that they're leaving behind? And how are they as fathers, of course, like Latifa said, but how are they dealing with it? If there is an issue, like a manipulation issue, that's something key that you really want to look at. It is a telltale sign of someone's personality, for sure. But it's definitely something important to note if you're making notes of something.
So let me lean in a little bit. When you say it's a telltale sign of somebody's personality, are you referring to
how they handle
the husband, how they handle it, how the man handles it?
Yeah. And if it's a man looking at a woman who's in a situation, how is she handling that type of situation as well? Like, if she has issues with her ex, how is she handling that situation? You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
And I think that goes to support too, right? Sometimes your spouse needs you to support them in a way where it's like you might have to step in where they can't, or because you're going to have a different relationship with someone, so they might pop off on the ex and not pop off to you, or in certain situations they could pop off on both of you guys. You never know. But there are some situations where it's like, okay, I might say this better, or even this is how you should say this. Like, support can look like that, where it's like what you're about to say and how you're about to react to this person is going to be a problem. So try this and then see what happens. Sometimes, go ahead.
No. I was just saying. So you're basically saying that even if that person, your spouse, isn't handling it well, that's when you come into play to provide that support to help them navigate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Why is your husband shaking his head, Latifa?
Why are you shaking your head, sir?
Oh no, I'm listening. I'm getting some understanding. Because after all these years, I just thought
he didn't know.
I just thought I was a man. I just thought I gave a blueprint. Like this what it is. This what it gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Apparently that's not what it was. She did it.
I'm like,
she did it.
Delete that text message, sir. Right there. Okay.
Nah, it's just it's not that. It's just that the bottom line is she was just incredible because she had the fact that I don't know what it came from, what it is, or why it was, but she just had the mindset like just gotta have it work because if I'm gonna be with you, I'm being with you. I'm gonna be with you. I ain't looking like we gonna be there for like 2 days, 2 years. We're gonna be together. We're gonna rock. And this child not going nowhere. The situation not going nowhere. So let's be. I'm gonna have to make this work. Like at the end of the day, what's of value? What matter? You know what I'm saying? What are you trying to do? I just care about my peace and my child. And then at the end of the day, I ain't. I really ain't with. Hey, this is my baby. I don't care what you talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like ain't none of that. You know what I'm saying? You can't see your child that I got that going on. Nah, we ain't playing them type of game.
We were fortunate enough to be able to get custody, which is something very probably.
But I mean, prior to even having to go through all them situations with the court, like you can be mad, you can be angry about whatever you angry about. Go see a counselor, deal with it. But when it comes to the child, like it ain't none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like every situation ain't like that, but it ain't no abuse, ain't nothing wrong with the child. Like I'm just a solid, straight up, stand up father. Like it ain't nothing else going on. I don't care what you do whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna work like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So fighting for your child is important. Coach Rayesa, I want to bring it in, and yes, audience members, relax. We are going to balance it on the women's side. We're just honoring the men for a second. And as I spoke on the live, we have to. I think Coach Rayesa, you said it so beautiful, and I tried to reiterate that allowing space for both to be heard is important. And when we allow space, we don't have to combat with the other side. We allow space and allow people to have their experiences. So I think as women, I want us to just make us conscious of that because men have their experiences too. And that doesn't mean that make our experiences any less valid as women and what we go through. But Coach Rayesa, I wanted to bring you in and I wanted to talk really briefly just about this aspect of support. And a lot of times what I'm hearing or piecing together is that sometimes it can be challenging for a new woman coming to the place with a husband that may not be navigating the circumstances well. It may be difficult for some of those women to want to stick by him. But as Latifa said, she had to be the one to sort of help support and facilitate to help get, despite what her dear husband said, to help, get everybody to the promised land. So can we talk a little bit about that support and what it should look like as we navigate new unions?
I wanted to say something to the point you mentioned about allowing men to have their space. I think we all have to look at it as like we're a team, men and women together. We're a team, we're a family. So there has to be perspectives from both sides. It's not like us against them or me against you, So as a woman going into a marriage with a man that has a child and an ex-wife, I think there has to be a level of security within that individual, the woman who's coming in, meaning that knowing who she is, knowing what she has to offer, and knowing her dynamic of how she fits in this new family or this marriage that she's coming into as a wife and as a stepmother. And I love what you said about, I decided that me and my child's mother are going to be friends. And I think that's a great perspective looking at it. Like, we're not enemies here, we're a family. Like, we are some type of new family that's creating a new dynamic, and there's this innocent child who is relying on the parents for safety and security and a structure. And so if the parents are fighting it out on their end, then that makes the child's world fall apart. And sometimes parents behave like children instead of behaving like adults. And so we have to just look back at ourselves. So I think for the woman coming in is to get your own support and your own help in terms of your own security, your own confidence, and knowing what you're getting yourself into, and are you willing to do what it takes? Because when things get frustrated and there's conflict and friction, it can feel very easy to run away. It can feel very easy to point fingers. And sometimes we have to just take a step back and pause and allow the feelings to settle and see, okay, where is my space in here? Where is my role in here? Am I going to add fuel to the fire, or am I going to help to calm and neutralize it? Whether that's with my husband, and I know I have a friend who actually made friends with her ex-husband's wife, third wife. And, she said that they just interact now. They figure things out for the kids because dad is more of hands off rather than hands on. And the new wife is taking ownership, and, the mother likes that. So it really depends. But I think it's very important for the new woman coming into the dynamic that's already been established with this family. Not seeing yourself as a threat and not seeing anyone else as a threat, because you are able to stand in your own.
Beautiful, powerful. All right, I want to switch gears a bit and ask, as it relates to women, as it relates to when a lot of times in our community, what we see as a pattern sometimes, and even outside of our community, when women decide that they want to move on, sometimes there's pushback and all of a sudden, custody battles and things like that. A lot of women have reported that they went through such difficulties to the point of where they, had to give up their custody and had restrictions with seeing their children as a result of moving on. So I wanted to ask you, Brother Jihad, if that's okay, just from a brother's perspective, I guess, some of what's going on from the brother's lens when they're unable to sort of facilitate or sort of, I guess, accept the mother of their children moving on.
Well, that can always be an interesting situation when your ex moves on. You have to be totally 100% done with that individual in your heart, and you have to be able to have the understanding that moving forward, it's strictly and only about what's going to be good for the children, and having a healthy relationship with your now ex-wife, that's your Muslim sister in the faith, and embracing the new person that she's going to marry. Because as someone said earlier, the whole part of it being a family, in fact, it is a family, in my opinion. It's a blended family. And I'll share this with you very quickly. I had a situation where my ex-wife had remarried someone from the community, and I knew this individual. From the door, I felt as though that it was very important for me and that individual to have some type of relationship with one another. Outside of us just being brothers in the faith, you're the person that's going to now be around my children. You're the person that's going to spend probably more time with my children than me, helping to put a roof over their head, food and clothes on their back. Sad to say, you get brothers who feel intimidated, and that's not something that they want. And they want to have total control over the situation. And my feelings towards that particular situation was like, brother, you run the household with your new wife. But in regards to my children, we already had a set standard of when I see my children, how much money I give my children. Yeah, so that the brothers have to, grow up and gain maturity and realize that we're not together for a reason. We divorced each other for a reason, whether it was good or bad. We have children. The ultimate goal should be the children, and brothers should not be intimidated by the father, because I'm the father. I'm going to always be the father. And whatever role you play is the role that you play. And I play a role. We all play a role in the situation. it's a blended family at the end of the day.
Very powerful. SubhanAllah, Coach Rayesa, I'm going to pop right to you just because I know this is, something serious work that you've done in regards to this. But what is the experience of women when they are targeted, controlled, manipulated as a result of wanting to have their own life post-divorce?
Yeah. It's really an issue of control, right? Because there was a marital relationship in the marriage. There was a dynamic in how you interacted with each other. For example, I'll give my own example. I was in a relationship that was very codependent because that's what I was at that time. I had so much codependency in my marriage. And that works really well when you have a person on the other side who's very, very controlling. And so for me, that felt very normal to be controlled, that it didn't seem anything wrong with it, right? But then when you've shifted out of the dynamic that played out in the marriage to now no longer being controlled or manipulated or saying, yes, sir, no, sir, or just conforming to whatever is being said, not, and when you speak your truth or when you have an opinion or when you want to do something differently, then all of this conflict starts. So how do we shift from that marital relationship into a new dynamic? Because once one person changes, there's going to be a lot of friction because you don't know how to relate to this person that is very different than who you knew in the marriage, right? And so a lot of backlash can come out of that. However, your emotions, however way you're dealing with it that's your issue to deal with. And the one thing that kept coming to my mind as I was listening to everybody is love your child more than you hate your ex. And I'm sure everyone's heard that before, right? And so has to be an active process of switching from a marital relationship to a parental relationship. That means you don't bring in what happened in your marriage into when you're talking about the kids. You don't bring in the past issues and point the fingers and muddy the waters with what you have to deal with right now. And that takes work, that takes consciousness, that takes healing for you as an individual. So that's, I think, how I would answer that question.
SubhanAllah, SubhanAllah. I wanted to talk really quickly about the anger, rage, and even sometimes the desire to seek revenge. I know we're talking about the ideal of being healed and loving the child more than the other parent. But like you said, when you're knee deep in the pain, and what a lot of people actually do navigate is they navigate being knee deep in their rage. And I wanted to talk about how that's navigated from both the woman's perspective and the man's perspective. If it's okay, I wanted to start with Sister Hamidah in regards to just navigating that anger and rage, or even that desire to seek revenge for things that are done to you.
Well, I really can't relate completely with that. Because I'm a big believer in hey, if anybody's throwing anything negative towards me, I'm just gonna let Allah deal with it, honestly. Because there's other than that, you're disturbing my own peace. It's like I kind of won't allow certain things to disturb my own peace. You know what I mean? So as far as revenge or level of pettiness, I don't really let that dictate my actions like that. So I don't know if I can really answer that question, honestly.
Right, from your perspective.
Yeah.
And what about you, Latifa? Even just understanding it from a woman, not even if it's necessarily your own personal perspective, but I know you've seen it, you've dealt with it. I want to just kind of us to dig a little deeper as to what is really beyond that, and how, what does it look like when women are knee deep in their rage?
So I definitely think that it comes from a place of pain, hurt, and hurt people, there's another one that we hear, right? But I think that it comes from also with that, right? It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of still wanting this person, not letting this person go, not wanting that person to be happy. you're not happy, I'm not happy, so you're not going to be happy. And whatever I can do because once you're married to somebody and have children with them, you've been with them long enough to know what pushes their buttons, right? What can I do that's going to make them, what I can make them react. And today I want them to react, so I'm going to do this. And it definitely comes from because I honestly believe that I really truly believe that the other person has control of it, right? So it's like, you can make this better if you wanted to, right? So you guys know each other well enough. You know what you can say. There are ways to stop certain behavior from the other person. Like you could be like, whatever your relationship was, you should know what can make it stop. However, I think that person who's seeking revenge is definitely still in their feelings about that person. And I would almost bet, all of my money that if that person got back with them, all of that would stop. Like if it became another, like, we're getting back together, I think it would stop. When it gets to the revenge part, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, brothers, I'm popping over to I want to pop over to your husband, brother Amir. I want to ask, just from the brother's perspective, because a lot of men do navigate anger and rage beyond it because sometimes they may not know how else to express it. But how do men navigate the desire to seek revenge when they've been targeted in the courts, dragged, child support, being blasted on the internet? Like, how do you stop yourself from wanting to go ham?
I'm like Sister Amir. I didn't have issues, so like I didn't have to worry about having to go ham because I just technically didn't have those issues about having to, have rage. Because, like, for me, like, it's like I let Allah handle it, and at the end of the day, I'm just, for lack of a better word, I'm just a G like that. Like, she didn't have to worry. Like, my ex, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have rage issues. I didn't have to worry about having to go ham. Because I'm not going to, because at the end of the day, like Latifa said, and like I believe that wholeheartedly, is the fact that she didn't turn into a brand new person. I know we had a child together. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had time together. It's just that the way she started acting and all her being mad, it just started going toward me now. I had seen it before to other people, so I knew how to navigate and handle it because I know her. So I just knew how to handle the situation, and I didn't react. And so for me, the blessing of my situation is the fact that I had an incredible, I have an incredible wife that, no cap. I have an incredible wife that really just knew. I don't know how she was built. Shout out to her dad, may like first upon him. Like, she just was incredible. She just knew how to just be like, look, this how we gonna handle that. And at the stage that we are right now, it's like, I don't even know if I had the child with that person. As close as they are, everything goes through them now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it ain't, they were incredible. They handled it, and we don't have no issues. And now it's just, Cause like it ain't, I ain't had no issue. Like I didn't have no rage. I wasn't mad. I wasn't gonna react. Like, she did try to do her little petty slit stuff, but Latifa and was such a G, and I ain't gonna react. So it just, we had no issue. And then she just understood, matured, grew, and healed, and came in. Like, a lot of it is her maturity and just understanding where you at and like what is life about. Like, grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like a better word. Like, what we really doing here?
But I love that I think you said some powerful points, though. I think you actually gave some strategies within it, which was really powerful. And I'm pop to you, Brother Jihad, and pop to Coach Rayesa. But you said, this person. She didn't change, so you know how to deal with it. So that really is an ownership piece that I appreciate you sharing. And the second thing I heard you say is that you didn't react. And that sounds like that was really critical to controlling your reactions. Brother Jihad, I wanted to ask you your opinion on this as a brother navigating this, as far as handling that rage. It don't have to be necessarily from your personal experience, but because we know a lot of men go through this.
Well, I'm like Brother Ali, alhamdulillah. At the time when I was married, I didn't have to deal with the rage. You know, I had a supportive wife at the time who really just, everything got channeled through them. They became the person that dealt with the ex-wife as it related to pickups and drop off and doing all those type of things. The only thing I kept really to myself, and I dealt with them, was the aspect of the financial part of it. So, you know, I had good people, alhamdulillah, in my life that navigated that. So if there was rage and shade, you know, shout out to the ex-wives who dealt with that for me. I didn't have to deal with it. Thank Allah. I don't think mentally I could have dealt with it. I would have just like freaked out or something.
Yeah, but that's real though. That's real. Coach Rayesa, there's so many comments here. And I'm sorry, I'm just like so into y'all conversations. I want to honor the audience. But one Sister Dana said the hardest thing is to not react to someone who is pushing your buttons and wanting a reaction from you. And I wanted to just honor, you know, although it does sound ideal when you can control your reactions, but the reality is it is difficult and people have to navigate this. And I wanted to just talk about that rage, that desire for revenge, the desire for the get back.
Let's
we navigate
that though. Don't react to that person. That doesn't mean that you're not reacting.
Okay.
Because there's a reaction. It just might not be directed towards the person who wants the reaction. So you can go to the gym and punch some, you know, punching bag like you hot about it. But not reacting to that person is the key. And then I saw someone, I think BB wrote that sometimes not reacting can make people go crazier, right? That can make it worse. But I think, like, you know, like we said, you know who this person is.
So you gotta know how to react too, because you know that person. So you and they're pushing your button because they want attention in a certain way. And so you got to know what it is that they actually really want, and then you gotta chill out. Respond to what they actually really want. See, the thing is, you know what it is, you just don't, you know what I'm saying? People just want to go beat on the push. You don't try to deal with it. In fact, the matter is, like, how you want to deal with it? Like, do you want to have this constant annoying, nagging situation going on, or you just deal with it head up? Like, I'm straight up, like, look, okay, you doing it because I know that you want some, and I know pretty much what I think that you need to want, but I handle it. You know what I'm saying? And just deal with that.
Okay, thank you. Coach Rayesa.
Yeah, so some of the things that I was hearing was that, you know, what stops you from acting on that rage, acting on that anger? It's real stuff. It's real stuff. As human beings, you know, we get triggered in terms of, you know, past hurts, and there are certain things in relationships that make us quite angry. And so the thing is that not acting on the feelings. You're allowed to have anger, right? It's just we're not meant to act on the feelings, not meant to act on the anger. But if there needs to be a response, then it needs to come from your wisdom, from your good thinking when you're not in your heightened emotional state. And part of that is our ego gets in the way. Our ego is in the way there when we want revenge. It makes us feel better. It thinks that it's going to solve the problem, but it doesn't. It just adds more fire within ourselves, to that anger. And the only thing that gets in the way of that ego is not having Allah there, the consciousness of Allah. Look, what is Allah looking for me to do in this situation when I'm getting disrespected, when I'm getting perhaps, you know, my children's dad is saying all of these horrible things about me. What do I do? And I love what the people who have said so far, let Allah handle it. And so, you know, in my particular example, I've always relied on Allah in terms of, okay, how does Allah want me to handle this? What is Allah looking for me to do in this moment? So me focusing on pleasing Allah and me relying on Allah to handle whatever nonsense needs to be handled on the outside. I think, I know for me, having that approach, I've always felt very taken care of, and I don't have to worry about who's right, who's wrong, or, you know, getting anyone back or anything like that. And I think when we have that connection with Allah, we're not going to go wrong, because otherwise it's just our ego and our feelings leading us astray.
Alhamdulillah. So subhanAllah, I really appreciate this perspective. At this time, you guys, we're changing up. We're doing something a little bit different here on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. We have our commentator that is going to be joining the show, and that is our brother, our attorney, Esquire, Mumin Islam, who we are welcoming now to the show. This is a dope attorney who I grew up with personally. I'm looking at his bio. Okay, he's a licensed attorney in Pennsylvania, so Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Georgia. He has over 10 years of practice and has represented families in PA and New Jersey in family law for over 10 years. He has his own practice at www.myace.law.com, which we'll put on the screen. And we will also put his contact number down there for anyone that needs his assistance. But welcome, Brother Mumin. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam to barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are y'all? I heard a
lot
of stuff. I heard a lot of myths too. You
heard a lot of myths. All right, good. So it's a good time for you to come on in, and we want to break.
I used to teach at Temple for like about 10 years, and the first thing I always started class with was let's break down these myths, because there's a lot of things that people said that are, in my opinion, a lot of myths. And being in court, I'll tell you, I don't do a lot of child stuff no more because it takes a little toll on you personally. But at the end of the day, I've done probably at least 25, 50 cases or so, and I've seen a lot. But it's a lot of myths y'all said. So I'll leave it.
Well, let's start right there, Attorney Mumin. Let's go ahead and break down a few myths to help clarify, and also let's give us some vital tips to sort of navigate this. Let's myth bust.
Somebody said in most states, mother gets custody of the child. That's not true. All right, let's break it down. Specifically speaking, every state has factors. Pennsylvania has 16 factors. Factors can be like who's going to be more inclined to give the child to the other parent, or the other parent, who's going to financially, who's going to do emotionally. Like there's a whole bunch of factors involved. And Pennsylvania has those 16 factors, and that's how they award custody. Georgia has another similar set of factors. But the point is, every state has factors. Most states, I practice in 4 states, as you've seen, probably know attorneys all across the country. I don't think any state primarily gives it to one parent. They used to have this presumption of the mother, totally. It was very big, but that moved away definitely late 90s, early 2000s. And most states now have standardized factors. And what's good about the standardized factors is if you show on the record that you met the factors, you can always appeal it and say, yo, that was wrong. They took away my rights because they didn't follow the factors. Now, sometimes, and anybody who's black, whether you're male or female, you get screwed in court. I understand. I get it. But generally speaking, the courts will try their best to stay to the factors because you can go to appeal. And when you go to appeal, you're not bringing your child. You're not hearing no testimony. It's just looking at the factors. So if the judge says I went through all the factors, it's subjective. But the point is that that's a myth. Okay. Another thing is someone says some men carry it in silence. I think that's part of the problem. I'm going to tell you why. A lot of men, and Jihad, I know Jihad probably all my life, or at least the most of the life I remember, and him and I have had conversations. Men don't fight for their kids. I'm going to be honest with you. They fight personally. They fight with the woman. They fight with their grandma, the mother's mom. They fight with the cousin. They fight with the aunt. But they don't take their butts to court and fight. A lot of times, that's what you fight in silence, and that's the problem, right? So it's the problem because I just told you about those factors. Well, if you break up and she take the kid and you just let her be like, all right, she's angry, she's gonna come back, and you let it go 6 months and 9 months, and you playing around with that visitation situation, you gotta say, no, we're not together. All right, I want this arrangement. If she says no, go to court. Because once you go to court, it's a clean slate. But now if you let it go 2 years and 3 years, and she can say that you only come in every other weekend whenever you want, and you have less ground to stand on. So what I say is I do agree that men they suffer in silence, but you have to go to court. And unfortunately, I do see a lot of guys go to court, but a lot of times, to be honest with them men, is when it's child support involved. And everybody think, oh, if I can drop it to 50-50, then I can lower my child support. And I'm like, All right, but like you got to realize that, you know, at the end of the day, if you have no custody order, and that's another thing, and this is not a myth per se, but to explain the child situation, the courts aren't going to go from one drastic extreme to the next. So I've had people come in court and say, I want 50-50. I'm like, all right, let's talk about it. They ain't seen their kids in 6 months. You don't have no relationship with the child. That's not going to happen, sir. Or man, I've seen women too. So I'm going to be honest, I represent both sides. So my point is that it's a gradual step. So they'll do just everybody a little brief explanation.
Yeah.
There's physical custody and there's legal custody. So legal custody is like who can make decisions for a child. Most states, some states give it to one or the other, but most states, they're going to share that with both parents. Unless you can show like a parent is like, I don't know, you know, doing something crazy or something crazy, they probably won't take the, like specifically in Pennsylvania, it's really hard to lose legal custody. I've seen guys come out of jail, like did 5-year bid, went to court and got legal custody. I've seen guys in jail still maintain legal custody. So legal custody is hard to take from the parent unless you can show something crazy. But the physical custody part is important because it's a gradual step. So if you have a child who's with the mom 90% of the time, 100% of the time for 4 or 5 years, it's going to be hard for another parent to come and say, I want 50-50. Now, the court will not. I've represented recently, I had a case where dad was abusive and he had all this crazy stuff going on. He still got 2 days. It was visitation, it was with supervision, but he got it. And I've seen another one with a guy, like I said, just got out of jail, hasn't seen his son in 6 or 9 months, all types of crazy stuff. And the court gave him, I think, every other Saturday or something like that. And mom will call me and be like frustrated because the cop didn't want to go, but the court was still saying you have to go. So I've seen it. I've seen them get some rewards. And the last thing I'll say, and I used to tell all my clients, which is a personal perspective. Well, I'm familiar with this process. Well, not necessarily the process. I've never really went through that, but I'm familiar with that kid and the house and all that stuff. But long story short, you fighting over 18 years. Just think about that. You really fighting over 18 years. And most of it ain't 18 because you might not get involved kid 7, 8, 9, and then you start doing it. So you're fighting over a window of time. When at the end of the day, you got the rest of this kid's life, inshallah, right? Realistically, you got a whole worst of that life. And a lot of people I know, they don't like their parents when they after they're 18. Like, they don't talk to them when they're old. So you're fighting and doing all this crazy crap for a small window that in the grand scheme of things don't really matter if they live to 60. You know what I'm saying? So I used to tell clients that all the time. And I say that to say, that doesn't mean don't fight, because you still should go fight for your kid. But I'm only saying that to say that if you only get 2 days a week, or if you only get every other weekend, or if you only get 40%, I've literally had a judge say, y'all two need to cut it.
Uh-oh. Brother Mukman? Brother Mukman? Okay, I think we lost Brother Mukman. I think we lost the audio of our dear Brother Mukman. We can't hear you. You're completely choppy at this point. I do want to bring in a couple comments as Brother Mukman's kind of transitioning out. Sister Adiba said the court will do its best for the kids given the history and what will provide the most stability. Sister Dana said those younger years do matter. Great bonds in that time happen, and you can help mold your child and their character. Brother Mukman, are you back? No, he's frozen. Okay. All right. SubhanAllah. Digesting some of that. That was some really powerful. Those were some really powerful points. Latifa, tell me a little bit about your thoughts as it relates to that. I saw you nodding your head a lot.
Yeah, he was just, I was having flashbacks. Like, it's very true that men don't fight for their kids, or they suffer in silence and all that. I can, I know enough people and have, experienced the whole court thing, myself. So I think that, with men not fighting, they just want it over with. I think they have the misconception that they're going to lose. Like most black men for sure think they go to court, they're going to lose. So what's the point in going to court? So they will agree to whatever just to get it over with. Like, I don't want to be in court. I don't feel like dealing with this. I'm not about to be going to court. There's a few that'll go through it. Like, you know, Amir was like, I'm getting my kid. No, my kid is not going anywhere. It wasn't an option.
What? Yes and no. Cause it like you don't want to put them. You don't want to put them on. Like you don't want to. You know, like yes and no. Cause you don't. You don't want to put them folks in your business like that, and you don't want to go through
that too. That's a big thing. I don't want people in my business.
And because of the simple fact, like let's sit down and let's communicate, cause we know how to really communicate. Cause I know you know me. We know what we really want.
He says that, but that doesn't work, right? So when you went to court, like she ain't trying to hear that. I don't care. I'm gonna try to.
That's why you went to court. So because you try to be mature, you try to be an adult about it. Okay, well, bet did this here. You don't want to go that route and make it simple for yourself? All right, let's ride. With the court, handle business. Then that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you try not to go that way. Like I wasn't trying to.
Yeah, men don't want to go that way, but that's the whole point. They don't. But you are one of the few that's like, okay, you don't want to go this route, let's go this route. Like that just isn't something they do. Like men will stop and be like, let's see how this rides out. But they're not going to be the ones that's filing court paperwork. Like that's not a normal thing. Because they don't want people in their business. They don't want the court trying to tell them what to do with their kids. They don't want the court to have to tell them that they have to pay a certain amount of money and who, how, when they're going to see their kids. Like, they don't want that at all. And women have become accustomed to, you know, just historically, women have become accustomed to, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm putting you on child support. I'm taking you to court. And there's a threat. Like, at this point, it's been a threat.
Manipulation.
So, that's the manipulation. So when they do all that and they, you know, so men don't want that to happen. Like I completely agree with everything that he's saying. There's very specific laws about, you know, custody and visitation and money and all this stuff. Like it's a lot of work. And most men, I ain't giving them all my business. I'm not filling out this financial paperwork so they know how much money I make, so they can tell me how much money. Like it's not an easy process. So for the most part, men will be like, I ain't doing all that. And then they sign on whatever paper or they don't show up to court and everything goes in the mother's favor, no matter what the crazy stuff they put on there. I've seen it so many times. I've heard it so many times. People complaining about their child support because they didn't go to court.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And it's unfortunate because had they gone, it's like, if you would have just did it, you wouldn't be in this situation right now.
Actually fighting for their rights. Absolutely. And Sister Hamidah, a good point was made, because even of the perspective of maybe just a partner that's trying to support this person through that, but when that husband, if this is a new wife coming into place, that the husband doesn't want to fight for the kids, and there's so much manipulation that is the new wife, it really causes a strain on that relationship. How does that dynamic as well, when that plays out, it really does affect that new marriage, right? When the husband does not go and fight.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that's part of it as far as the whole myth busting thing, because a lot of times they will look at it, especially from a financial perspective. They're like, look, I'll just give her, we'll basically make arrangements outside of court. I'm not going to go and pay lawyers when we could just try. I'll just, you know, if she wants it this way, I'll just work it this way, you know, to kind of just have it work for them instead of it being so finite when it comes to a court situation. Now, being on the supportive side of it, it's like you kind of want them to just kind of do their own thing. But at the same time, you're like, hey, well, you could just at least talk to a lawyer, or at least tell them, like, get a little bit of counsel. You don't have to have somebody represent you, but at least have a conversation. You know, and like I said, it's a touchy subject, because you kind of want them to handle it themselves, because it's ultimately a part of that chapter of their life. But as a spouse coming on, you're looking at it like, you know, I want to make it to where this is not an issue between you and I. I want it to be a situation where we're together on this. So if this is how you want to handle it, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. So it becomes something that could be an issue.
Absolutely. SubhanAllah. Coach Rayesa, we're going to culminate. We're coming to the end of this podcast, but we heard a lot as it relates to navigating this court system and just being willing to kind of do the work, so that everybody's rights can be upheld. I wanted to just ask you right here, right now, what's the best advice as if it gets to the point where manipulation, this idea of manipulation comes into play? What is the best way for us to navigate that?
I think the best way to navigate that is people can be dancing up and down and acting like clowns on the outside. You have to be grounded within yourself, meaning not buy into the manipulation, not because people can try to manipulate you, but really it's up to you if you will allow or be available for manipulation or not. And that requires a higher level of consciousness. If you're just reacting to everything, you're just playing out old cycles. And so in terms of manipulation, really, no one can make you feel anything. No one can make you do anything. No one can manipulate you unless you allow them and you buy into it. Mm-hmm. So it's really, it's so much more of healing your own pains and wounds so you don't go back to that same space to be manipulated in that way. Right? You can rise above it. And in terms of the court stuff, they can bring all sorts of tactics in terms of degrading your character, degrading you as a parent, and all these things to try to get their way. But one of the biggest things is that outcome always lies with Allah. That belongs to Allah, and Allah is the one who gives you the outcomes. So if you're focusing on how do you respond, how do you interact? How do you communicate? Are you communicating by attacking and blaming and falling into that same cycle? Or are you communicating the message rather than the emotion? Doing what you need to do and doing it in a manner pleasing to Allah. You let Allah handle the outcomes and know and trust that whatever way it goes, it will be good. And believing that Allah will give you the best outcome.
Absolutely. Sister Kabasha, and I can't pull her comment on because it's big, said, but don't forget it goes both ways. There's sisters out here that have the baby mama drama coming from the brothers, subhanAllah. So please don't think. Brother Mumin, can you mute yourself? Please. Thank you. SubhanAllah, so please don't think it only happens to the brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all to what is correct for everyone. And I'm going to reiterate my point once again, because we amplify one person's experience, it doesn't discredit the other person's experience, doesn't minimize it, doesn't trivialize it. We allow space for all people's experiences. But I do want to just kind of give space for that comment if anybody wants to sort of respond to Sister Kabasha in regards to that. Go ahead, Brother Jihad.
One thing I wish Mumin was on for this part. I'll paint a very quick picture for you. 2 stories. I had a situation. I got divorced. My ex-wife, we agreed upon she was going to move out the country. It was a joint effort. It was something that we both agreed on. Another divorce, and it came down to we didn't make it. I'm out. I'm moving to another state. I didn't go to court. I didn't fight. I was afraid to fight, and for 2 reasons. Financially was very important to me because I felt like they were going to kill me with child support. So I was more inclined to letting them move. But I was also concerned about, could they still get child support from me, and what rights did I have with them moving out of the state? So that goes both ways. Because as a man, you're looking at it and you're like, well, wow, I'm giving you child support freely without even being in the courts. And now you're talking about, you didn't talk about it, you actually left. So there was a period of time that I had to accept that this person I was married to took our children and they moved. Alhamdulillah, I'm better with it now. I deal with it. It works. We make it work. But the moral to what I'm saying is I did not fight because I was afraid. I didn't want the courts in my business. I didn't want nobody to dictate how much I had to give. I didn't fight. And I felt as though if I would have fought and I would have said, okay, I don't want my children to go, then what the heck? She's going to stay here and probably make my life miserable. That needs to be taken into consideration too.
Oh, child, we're gonna get honest. See, we didn't even touch child support, y'all. That's a whole nother can of worms. But Sister Bibi, she made a comment that she felt like within the Muslim community, there is a favoring of giving the husband custody. And Brother Akil responded to her and says, sis, come on now. You know, a brother getting custody of his children isn't the norm. I want us to end there because I think that's a debatable issue. What is our perspective as it relates to that, where, you know, a lot of women feel as though, not a lot, but the perspective is that the Muslim community does favor the father with custody, but a lot of men are saying that's just not true.
I think that it may be true in the sense of boys. I've seen that when boys reach a certain age, they need to be with their fathers, so they will go with their fathers. I don't know if it's puberty. I don't know if that's what the age is, or 10 or something. I don't know, because I've heard both, but I do know of a lot when it comes to boys that they need to be with their father, but I don't hear a lot of that when it comes to girls. However, I don't think it's the norm either. I don't think that's something that's pushed in certain communities, though. You know, it depends on what community you're coming from too, because that changes the game as well. But I do know, me growing up in the community that I grew up in LA, definitely the fathers got custody of their boys once they got a certain age, but they weren't going through court and doing all that legal stuff either. They were just like, nope, this is what Allah said. It must be a hadith. I don't know why it's escaping me right now.
Can I pop over to Coach in regards to this, as far as the perspective, the Islamic perspective, because I know you also have certain Islamic certifications in regards to these fiqh matters.
In terms of the custody, it's not a black and white thing. It's more of a gray area, and that's what has been explained to me by local imams. I'm also in LA, and the way that the imams, at least my community local, imam that I consult with a lot in terms of the work that I do, talks about following the law of the land, unless this is in direct contradiction with Islam. And so most places most people will go according to what the legality is. If you're in a community where people are following certain guidelines or norms, then I can very much see how that's just the norm. That's just what happens. This is where the boys go at a certain age, right? It's the custom. And I can see that if you're definitely out of court. But if there's somebody who wants to push up against that, they could always take it to court, right? And it can go to court. So what I've been seeing in a lot of my work is between the imams and the legal counsels, they advise is that we are supposed to follow the law of the land unless it's in direct violation of Islam, and doing what's best for both children. Doing what's best for the children, taking that into consideration and account as well. I wanted to just point out one comment that was here by Adiba, that's saying maintaining restraint, being cool, calm, and collected is draining and exhausting when the other parent is constantly antagonizing you. This is where mental health and community divorce support is critical. It is easy to give this advice, but it's extremely difficult. I wanted to speak to this because it's so true. Being in your peace, being calm, having clarity, being in your wisdom and responding that way when somebody is constantly throwing stuff at you. This is my expertise, is what I help you understand in how to understand your human experience. So regardless of what's happening outside of you, who's antagonizing you, pressuring you, manipulating you, using all sorts of tactics, when you're in your peace and you're in your calm and your clarity and you're in a state of tawakkul, you will go ahead and do the right thing. And you know what? When you do the right thing, which is not the easy thing because you have to fight against your ego and your nafs to do that, Allah will give you a good outcome in this life and the next life.
Inshallah ta'ala, subhanallah. Well, we're coming to the end of the podcast. We are going to just bring everybody onto the stream. Brother Mukmang back. You all right over there?
Yeah, I told you 6 kids. One of them pulled my darn Wi-Fi. I go up there. I did want to say one thing real quick. I heard someone say, I saw someone respond before I could respond. Basically, I'm not saying it doesn't matter that time period of up to 18. What the sister just said right there is so true. Allah is going to determine the outcome. We got to believe in the qadr of Allah. What I'm saying is, and Jihad mentioned too, I heard what he said. Jihad mentioned it is too. You have to do the fight. So if you get 3 days, if you get 2 days, if you get a week, if you get 4 days, maybe that's the decree of Allah for that period of time. What I'm saying is men don't even try to do the fight. So then you get nothing. And then you wait until years go by, and now you up there complaining about you haven't seen your kid. So what I was simply saying is not that the 18 years doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But we got to think about it and say, if we can spend 3 days a week with our child, can we improve? Can we help them? And then that last thing, and I'll say it real quickly, and this is as the father of 6. When you leave the woman, you got to accept she's not going to be with you anymore. She's going to be with another person who will raise your kid. It is what it is. Once you make that decision to step, man, me and Jad talked about, you have to accept somebody else is going to raise your kid. If you don't want that, I tell my client, you got to get back with them. If you don't want to be back with them, then you have to accept that fact. So in that 18 years, if you can't make it your model of what you want as a citizen because somebody else is involved. It is what it is. So what I'm saying is do what Jihad said he didn't do. You got to do that fight. And for real quick, for what Jihad said, I would tell you legally, yes, it's good you had an agreement, but put it on paper. Put it on paper. Even if you can't go to court, or you don't want to spend the money to go to court, put it on paper. So you put that on paper, then at least you can go to the judge and say, listen, we had this agreement, and judges try to keep the status quo. So put on paper, okay, you're going to go live out of state. Here's how often I'm going to see them. Here's what our arrangement is going to be. Now, when it comes to child support, that don't matter. So don't think that works for that. But when it comes to custody, the judge does try to keep the status quo. And if they see a pattern that has been consistent, they will usually start with that order until somebody screws up. And that's the reality.
Powerful. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah.
One more thing, 30 seconds, I promise you. What the sister said over here is true. No, because this thing I was thinking, sister says true. When you respond, what happens a lot of men, they internalize and then they respond anger, and then now the judge only sees anger. You see what I'm saying? So the judge only see that side. So she can do all the rinky-dinky stuff you want or whatever. But when you go and respond with the cussing out, the text message, showing up at the house at 1 o'clock in the morning, you now put yourself in a bad position. So what the sister said is true. You got to respond without that anger. You got to try to be mainstream, restrain yourself. And if you just can't deal with the person, I honestly go to court and let her handle herself that way.
Amir, you had something that you seem like you bursting at the seams over there. You okay?
Oh no! I'm groove. I was just I agree with that 100. Like with both of them. Like what I'm saying. Like every choice has consequences. You made a decision that this relationship is not working. You already know what's happening after that. You know what I'm saying? Like how you got a whole wife and some kids over there worrying about what she doing with her life and her doing her husband. You know what I'm saying? Like you made a choice, so it comes consequences. So that means at that point, like you had to realize, like, okay, I'm not gonna have every day in contact because I'm separated from this person who we made these children by. So I have to accept and understand this is gonna be my time. This is gonna be what I need to do, and I'm gonna do what I have to do within the time frame that I have. Like you can't be worried about. I don't worry about. I never did. Unfortunately, alhamdulillah, I had to worry about none of that other stuff. Like it did. You just got to be grown and mature about it. Choices have consequences. Be an adult about that and see that, accept them, and understand them. You know what I'm saying? On both ends.
The only time that doesn't work is if he didn't want the divorce and he did. That's men being their feelings, and then they really try to control the situation because they didn't want it in the first place. So if she's the one who initiated the divorce, and now he's doing the coming up to the house at 1 o'clock in the morning, ain't nobody about to raise my kids. You can't have nobody around my kids because he's not the one that wanted the divorce. So then that's a whole nother. Hold
Whole nother podcast.
And sisters, real quick, I've seen it on the other end. I've seen a man don't want her, cheating in all hell, got all other, and still talking about, oh, you can't let somebody. It's like, my God.
Yeah, that happens.
That's my point.
That's my
point. That's my point. Like, you gotta let that go, bro. Like it is, you know, even if you come into a situation where you don't want to get divorced and she does, it was something that happened in that relationship that where you knew that you needed to check yourself about the reason why she asked her for that divorce. Understand that part of it too, and deal with that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Realize what the real reason why she's doing and what she's doing. Now, if it's something else where she just wilding, then you gotta realize you make that choice and that was your woman. So realize that too. You know what I'm saying?
Matter what,
all
of it was your choice.
You gotta be real they gotta be real about situation, man. You can't be that, you know what I'm saying? You gotta look at stuff for what it is and what it is 100. It don't try to make it be what it's not. Look at what it is and know what it is and just ride with it. When people show you what their true color is, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
And I would allow on everything. Like I ain't tripping about nothing. I ain't worried about nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna give it 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's it. I'm gonna lay it right there. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make them prayer. I'm gonna leave it right there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But that is very powerful in the sense of, and that's really what we're trying to culminate here is that accountability piece. You make a choice, you live with that choice, those consequences, everything that comes with it. You made a choice to lay down and have that child, sis or bro. And, you know, I mean, we can be all, you know, upset and things like that now, but there is accountability that we all carry here. And if we want to have some real adequate healing. So subhanAllah, I want to just say Jazakallah khairan for everyone here. I am going to give Coach Rayesa just a moment to give final culminating points and just very briefly, inshallah, just advice to both the brothers and the sisters navigating this. And we want to say Jazakallah khairan for the audience. We know this is a difficult conversation. The only thing I can continuously encourage with this platform, I always try to honor the perspectives of both brothers and sisters. We are never going to move the needle in our communities if we only amplify one issue and one group is the bad guy and the other ones are the victims. We'll never get anywhere. So I hope that you understand the intentions here, and it is to bring mutual understanding. It is to unite our hearts, and we are hoping and praying that you guys can see it from that lens and perspective. Coach Rayesa, your final thoughts and advice, inshallah.
I mean, to your duas, Sabria. I think one of the biggest things here is when we are in a state of our feelings, fear, anger, frustration, we cannot make decisions based on our feelings. If we're afraid, we cannot take an action or lack of action because we're afraid. We have to get in our clarity. We have to get in our wisdom. We have to connect back to ourselves and Allah for guidance on what is the right thing to do, not what I feel like. If I feel afraid, I'm going to do this. If I feel anger, I'm going to do this. And that requires a lot of consciousness. That requires self-awareness. That requires actually returning back to yourself and to Allah. Because divorce and separation and this type of heartache is a big test. And having children is an amana. So while you're facing the test, there's an amana that you're still responsible for. And whatever it takes, each person is responsible for how they deal with it. So I would just say, look inward. Don't point the finger outward. Always look inward, and that's where you find your answers. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much. I want to just honor. Thank you, Brother Jihad, for coming on. Please, our dope producer behind the scenes, Sister Malika, she posted everybody's contact information. Please follow his amazing show. Brother Jihad, thank you so much for honoring us with your perspective. I appreciate you, my dear brother. Jazakallah khairan. Sister Hamidah, thank you so much for being here and sharing your perspective. May Allah continue to elevate you. Please follow her. She's doing dope things in the entrepreneur and business world. We'll be having her back to share that light as well. Thank you for being here. MashaAllah. And the dope couple, you know, MashaAllah, Latifa and Amir, thank you so much, first of all, for modeling for us what it looks like, what it should be like. We appreciate you. We have the contact information for, the Ali clicked their children. So make sure you go ahead and follow what they're doing there. Thank you guys both for being on the show. All right, Esquire, Brother Mukmin, I appreciate you, brother, for coming on. Your perspective was extremely dynamic for this conversation, and we have his information there. Please contact. And a lot of Black men, they want Black men lawyers. So I know he don't really do family law no more, but still contact him. So inshallah, thank you for being on the show, Brother Bookman. Thank you, mashallah. And of course, Coach Rayesa, thank you so much for your wisdom, for the light for the work that you do. I firmly believe in it. When I found who you were and I found that there was someone like you doing this work, it really made me have hope again in our community that you are doing the work that I know is ugly and difficult, but may Allah elevate you by your intention of elevating people that are hurt and broken and bringing them back to a state of stability and stillness. So may Allah bless you for being here. And please follow her. She has all types of courses and she coaches one-on-one, and she's an awesome, awesome resource. I watch her stuff all the time. Her contact information is there. Jazakallah khairan. Shout out to our producer, Malika. We are coming back next week with our topic is it love or manipulation? We are breaking down, are we loving or are we manipulating? Are we seeking something for ourselves, or are we truly manifesting love as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended us to? So come back here next week. I love you guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.